Hey guys, welcome. This is Deepika from mytutorialrack.com and we are here with the next question on our Java interview preparation course, which is what do you understand by an instance variable and a local variable? Or we can also say what is the difference between an instance variable and a local variable. So instance variable are the variables that belong or get available to every object of the class, and every object has its own copy of the instance variables. These variables are directly defined or declared within the class outside of a method or a particular block. That is what is called as the instance variable, and every time you create a brand new object, each object will have its own copy of those instance variables. Whereas the variables that are declared within a method or within a block of code, that variable is called as a local variable, and the age of that variable is from the starting point of that method till the end of that method. Okay, that is where that local variable will be available for. Outside of the block, nobody knows about that local variable. So let me go ahead and give you an example which will make things more clear. So let's say here we have created a class called athlete, and this particular athlete class, if you see here, this is our athlete class, and in this athlete class you have defined three variables. You can see you have a athlete name, athlete speed, and athlete age, and this particular variable is defined within the class. It is outside of any methods or constructors. So these three becomes as instance variable. Okay, so anytime you create an object, so when you say athlete A1 is equals to new of athlete, what will happen is this particular reference variable A1 is going to point to a memory location, and it will have its own copy of athlete name, it will have its speed, and as well as the age. So that is going to be called as instance variables. And here in the constructor, if you see all these three, name, age, and speed, these are called as the local variables. And similarly in this method athlete run, there is a variable that you declared called int speed is equals to 100. This also becomes a local variable. So that is the difference between the instance variable and the local variable. So let's go ahead and go through the definitions one more time. So what it is saying here is instance variables are those variables that are accessible by all the methods in the class. Okay, so this particular variable is accessible by every method because it belongs to the class. They are declared outside the methods and inside the class. You saw that athlete name, athlete age, and athlete speed were called as the instance variables, and these variables describe the properties of the object and remain bound to it at any cost. So every object will have its own copy of these instance variables, and these instance variables are directly defined inside of a class in the closing and the ending braces of the class outside of any method. And then the next point it says is all the objects of the class will have their own copy of these variables for utilization. And if one object changes the values, then other objects remains unaffected because they have their own copy of these instance variables. If any modification is done on these variables, then only that instance will be impacted by it, and all the other objects remain unaffected. Okay, local variables are the variables that are present within a block function. It can be a constructor or a method, can be accessed only inside that block. So this particular variable, if you see here void athlete, there is a method called athlete, and inside of this method you have declared a variable called athlete name. Now this becomes a local variable, whereas the age of the variable is from the starting point of this till the ending. Outside of this, nobody knows about it. Similarly, you have another variable that you have defined here, which is called as the athlete speed and athlete age. All three are your local variables, whereas the variables that are defined directly under this athlete class becomes your instance variables. Okay, the utilization of the variable is restricted to the blocks post. Whenever a local variable is declared inside a method, the life of that particular variable is only limited to that method. Outside of the method, nobody knows about it. The other class methods don't have any knowledge about this local variable. So that is the difference between an instance variable and a local variable. Instance variable means each instance of the class will have its own copy of the instance variable, whereas local variables are local to a method or a given function or to a given constructor. Their life is only from the starting point to the ending. Nobody knows about those variables outside of the methods or outside of the constructor, and that is called as a local variable. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Thank you so much.